In my animation so far, the ball drops down, bounces, and changes color. But it can't help but look like the ball is simply moving around the room rather than bouncing because it doesn't have much life to it. If I take a look at the animation on the left with the green box, the ball looks like it has life because of something called compression. It's drawn out on the image of the right, where the ball, as it drops down, becomes thinner. And then when it hits the ground, there is a compression of the force that it's then building that kinetic or potential energy and transferring it back into kinetic energy where it becomes a circle and comes back down again. Something else to consider in this image is the way that the ball does not bounce all the way up to the height that it initially started at because it is losing the potential and kinetic energy as it goes. So, as we are considering our plan in here, what can I do? I can change the shape. I'm going to go back over to my 1 and it drops in frame 2. And I think about frame 3, what I'm going to do is turn off my onion skinning. And that's just so that I don't have to see what was before and what's behind. And I am going to click on my cursor and we're going to make this a little bit skinnier. Not a lot. It doesn't need to be dramatic. And then I'm going to turn my onion back on. And now I know I'm going to make it a little bit skinnier than the previous one. And then I'm going to get to this next one. And instead of just also skinny, because I'm about to hit the ground, I am going to also think about it compressing down. So I am going to click on it. Here is it skinnier, and it's also kind of going down a bit. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to start with, I'm going to hit Control Z. Maybe I want to start with skinnier, and I'll leave it there, and I'll make this next one flat. So I'm going to make this one compress down because that's hitting the ground before it bounces itself back up. And if I look at that now, you can see how as it narrows and hits the ground, but then it goes back to a floating circle. So I am going to add, I think it needs to have a little more emphasis of hitting the ground, and I'd like to add another copy in here. So what I'm going to do is create a blank frame and bring it over so that it's in between. Because it's a blank frame, when I have the onion off, there's nothing there. It also doesn't have a green circle, it has an empty circle. It is best to place your blank frame before you worry about this step. I'm going to hit my frame that I want to Control C, click the frame I want to add it, Control V, and now I'm going to make this go down just a little bit so that when I play it, there's a little bit more emphasis on the down. Maybe that doesn't look as good as I want it to. Ooh, I know what I could do. I could add, and this is where animation starts to also become tricky. I could add this one as my down, and this previous one, I'm going to make that go down to the bottom like so. All right. Great. So now I've got it where it looks like the ball has some life to it. And if I were thinking about this next step, I could also make it skinnier and rotate it. Rotating it will help choose the direction of the ball. So as I go into this next one, I'm going to make it skinnier and rotate it. Just a little skinnier. And then I think I'll go back to normal for that one. So now let's take a look. Drops down. And if I needed to, I could add more, or I could consider how I want to change the shape, maybe making it smaller and bigger, like making it look like it grows or shrinks. Play with the size and think about trying to add in another frame. So what we're going to do is try changing the shape's size and rotation, try adding a frame, and make the bounce more realistic.